So right guys, today's episode on the Mental Wealth Podcast is urban street artist MUPE. How you doing?
I'm not bad, mate. Yourself?
Aye, I'm decent, mate. I'm decent. How about yourself, Adam?
Aye, not bad.
First of all, what was sort of life like growing up, and how did you sort of get into sort of painting?
It was good. Just a pretty kind of standard Southside upbringing. Went to school, all that kind of stuck in. But on the flip side of things, I used to skateboard as well, and I was a big part of that whole kind of culture of skateboarding, hip hop, all the graffiti type stuff goes hand in hand. But I never really got into graffiti at that point. It was mainly just skating. That stuff kind of came later on, and it was actually through a mate who we didn't go to school with. But yeah, he kind of got me into that. So just had a pretty kind of standard upbringing, really.
So what about like in school? Art, like doing art, were you good at art? Is that something that you enjoyed?
Yeah, I always done art in school. I took that to higher, I think, but then didn't do 6 years, so kind of stopped there really. I did look into art school and stuff like that, but it wasn't really for me. So I kind of got into other forms of work, and the art kind of fell by the wayside just up until the first lockdown when I kind of started getting into this.
Yeah, that's something that, so when you're growing up and you hear about these artists like Picasso and all that, and you think, oh wow, that they must have been so successful, but then like, were they actually making money? That's quite like, I think was it Picasso or one of them that like died like very, very poor, like
yep.
was
Maybe even Van. Yeah, I think even Van Gogh, was it? He went insane. He chopped his ear off for like a girl or something like that. But
getting close to that stage.
when the spray paint cans running it, man. So getting into painting and that, obviously sort of over lockdown. I suppose you probably had more time. Do you feel as if you had more sort of time? Sort of on your hands to just sort of explore like different places to sort of painting as well during lockdown?
There's a lot of derelict buildings in Glasgow, and that's where most people kind of start off doing stuff like this. It's out of the way. Yeah, you don't get bothered with like police or neds or anything like that, because not a lot of people kind of go. But that also comes with walking through nettles and all sorts of crap to get to these places. But, that's mostly where it kind of starts off.
So were you nervous when like first time doing it? Like, tell us about the first time you done it. Tell us that.
So the first time it was at a abandoned farm, and my mate we'd spoke about earlier, he took me up and kind of showed me all the pieces, and it was like some of the standard of the work up there was mental. So it was that kind of got me hooked, I think. But doing it up there was a lot easier because I didn't need to constantly look over my shoulder. It was a bit out of the way. But you're going to be a bit kind of paranoid doing stuff like this, no matter where you are. There's even been commissions where people have come up and questioned me. Like, I'm being paid to be there, and folk are still not happy with it. So it's just a personal thing, I guess.
What was the first thing you done? Like, did you draw it out first and then or did you just go straight?
Just a load of nonsense, to be honest with you. It was, I don't want to swear, but it was rubbish. But you need to start something.
You need to start, exactly. You do need to start something.
So so see, obviously when you're sort of starting out, like obviously I take it it's all just sort of freehand. Sort of when you sort of get better at it and stuff, do you usually sketch and then sort of apply it to like a bigger sort of wall or something, or a canvas, or do you sometimes even do stencils and stuff? Like,
I personally don't do stencils. Some people get into that sort of thing. Obviously like Banksy and stuff like that. That's a kind of different avenue in graffiti. Most folk will just do kind of freehand stuff. You can like make wee stencils to help yourself out. I personally have only really used them once or twice, but I much prefer just trying to kind of perfect it freehand. But it's not easy. But yeah, there's lots of different kind of ways you can go about doing it. As I said earlier, when you kind of start off, it's just random. But the more you get into it, the more you learn. You do need to just sit and sketch and work out different letter structures and how things go together. And then when you start doing that, you start to really see progression in your stuff. So that's like the advice everyone will try to give new starts, basically. But you do need to sit down and sketch as well.
Definitely, man.
Have you done any work that was quite high risk, like in the early when getting started?
Getting started, yeah. Because a lot of folk don't really know where to go or how to really get into it. They've maybe just seen a video on YouTube or been told like off their friend like I was. You do find yourself doing some daft things, like climbing off bridges where the fall's massive and the consequences are massive and stuff like that. And then you get the side of it where people will like go on to like roadsides, and they call it track sides. It's just basically walls at the side of train tracks and stuff like that. But that's when it starts to get a bit dodgy. So a lot of folk do that side of it. I don't really do that so much. Maybe kind of dabbled when I first started, but you kind of get away from that when you start wanting to put proper time into these things. Areas like that are very rushed, and you can't really spend time on trying to do a good piece. You just need to get up rapid and get out of there.
Because like 30 minutes time, the next train's coming past, so you need to think about that as well.
What's the community like? So the people that do you do it yourself, or is there?
It's very mixed. There's a reasonably big community in Glasgow. It's starting to kind of grow, which is good to see. I'm obviously quite new to it as well, but yeah, it's very mixed. There's a lot of people, as I say, who kind of prefer doing the dodgy stuff, and they don't really like people who you would call a street artist type thing. It can almost be frowned upon by some people, but I guess kind of doing a mix of them both, you get to meet a lot of different type of people, and a lot of them you kind of build up a mental picture when you see their stuff of who they would be, and it's quite surprising sometimes to meet them and be like, right, you're not at all what I expected, but it's just good to see the different kind of outlooks on it. And me personally, it's not really a competitive thing. It's more so just going out and channeling your energy into something for a few hours and having a laugh with your mates, really.
Yeah, definitely. I seen him. I don't know if you've seen it as well. I think there was something on YouTube. It was like bomb graffiti. So they would just like run up to like a random building and just tag something and then run away. But it would literally be like 10 seconds, like 5-10 seconds, and it's just like just there to just put their tag on something and just run away, like properly. Like it would be like Bank of America, like big massive place in America. They would just like, and say like Central Chicago, they would just do it and then run away.
Yeah,
so I think
like, as you say, they call that bombing. So that's when you go out and it's basically just damaging. You're trying to get as much as your name out there as possible, so as people have got no choice but to really look at you type thing. That's quite a big scene in Glasgow as well. Me personally, again, I don't really do that much at all.
Do you think anyone can do it, or do you think you have to have a specific skill set or something? Or
I mean, there's that many different styles that I would personally say that anybody could do it. It's really who appreciates your stuff. It's what your goals are, really. If you're looking for everyone to love your stuff and you want to be a really good artist that can do like photorealism and stuff like that, not everybody could do that. That takes a certain amount of talent. I don't think you can really teach that sort of thing.
Yeah, like in Denniston, you see those murals on the walls. Like, they're amazing. Some of them.
Like, there's a few guys in Glasgow, like Smug One, Rogue One, stuff like that. These guys are mostly who do all the big murals you'll see, and even I've painted a few events with these, well, 1 or 2 events with these guys, and just watching them paint is incredible. Like the techniques they use. Most of their stuff again is freehand. These guys don't use any stencils. Minimal stencils, if any. I've never seen them use any stencils. But
what kind of events are these then?
So the one most recently was at SWG3, and it's an event called Yardworks. It's run by Gaz Mack. He basically gets all the artists together, not just from the UK, but also from like Europe and places like this. So it's basically to allow the public to come in and see the artists doing their work and seeing the process of it, how it all comes together. So I painted that. It was brilliant. It was good to see the kind of families and stuff walking about and being able to actually appreciate it rather than just seeing it as vandalism. But yeah, there's a good few of these events on. As I say, it's kind of starting to open up a bit more. Especially, well, some councils like Dundee, they've opened up a lot of legal walls and legal spaces for people to do it. So
I think even just for like, just on topic of that, I think even like it does brighten the place up. Like, see when you walk, like, I've been in places like cities like Liverpool, and like obviously I suppose the football is different up here, but they'll have like murals of like Van Dijk or like Mo Salah on the wall and stuff. So like when you like walk through these areas, it does brighten up. I know a lot of people would say, "Oh, it's graffiti, it's XYZ." Well, some people more than others when it's actually proper artwork. But I think even areas for Dundee, that's probably quite a positive thing for that city to actually put a bit of colour into it, because it does look quite grey. Like I don't know about you, but like I've been up there a few times, and you know,
So there's a property developer called Derek Maloney. I don't know if you've heard him, but he bought so he was about 20 years ago, 15 years ago. He was working as in a job, and he got sacked. He got basically told that you're not good enough, and lost his job. And he got into property about 5 or 6 years later. And eventually he got to the point where he was in a position to buy back the building he was sacked from. When he bought that building back, he set up an event where he invited all like street artists to come and do their work, you know, just as a like exhibition before they like done it all up, just something to get people the community involved. So do you think there's more acceptance to it, and there's more, you're seeing more like
with
people encouraging it more?
I definitely, especially with the growth of social media, like businesses are taking advantage of it now. And I've got a lot of friends who I paint with that have painted like insides of shops and stuff like that. Also done shutters and stuff. So it is opening up a lot more, and people are starting to recognise it. It's funny to see the contrast, because then a lot of them will look at that and say, that's brilliant, but I don't like the tags next to it. That's where everybody starts. That's where it starts. And a lot of them will still use that tag as a signature for their work. So it's a bit of a catch-22 in that sense. But I do definitely think you're right. A lot of people are now starting to recognise that it can be very attractive, and it does kind of bring people in. There's a business in Glasgow called Golfang.
So there is, it's like mini golf,
They've basically got a lot of the Glasgow-based guys to come in and paint the inside of that, and it looks amazing. And that's obviously huge on social media, and it's all kind of like neon stuff. But yes, things like that, it is definitely growing.
So there's a big opportunity there for small businesses opening up to try and get the community involved, and that will spread awareness as well, won't it? Because whoever's doing the art, they've got followers, they'll post it as well and stuff like that. So
so is there any place you sort of wouldn't paint as it would, like, as you would sort of fear it would sort of get painted over and stuff?
You try to avoid painting. Like there's certain writers. There's a writer from Glasgow called Mode who passed away. So a lot of people will try and protect his stuff. He's still got quite a lot of pieces and stuff like that up. So the general rule is that you don't go over anyone who's passed away. Tribute pieces, so pieces who people have maybe painted for someone who's passed away, you don't touch them. And the kind of more risky side of things, the guys who are painting risky spots, they really don't want to be painted over, obviously, because there's been a massive risk involved. So that's a different side of it again, but most kind of refer to them as chill spots. It's just areas that you it's okay to do. No one's really going to come up. It's no one's property. It's maybe like a derelict building or something like that. That's kind of free hand. Not free hand. It's free game. So you can just paint wherever really. There's obviously that kind of people have got rules, and it's all about respect at the end of the day.
So what are these like kind of risky spots that people tend to?
So risky spots would be like areas with high traffic in town, so a lot of people walking past. It's maybe business shutters, walls that are basically just close to the public eye, and they are owned by someone, so you're damaging someone's property basically. So there's that kind of risk of things you could be prosecuted for. And then the other side of that is like track sides and stuff like that, where people you're not meant
risk of death, or is it
exactly?
But there's like I suppose there's sort of free game spots. Me obviously being a skateboarder, skateboarding a few of DIY spots that are up and coming in Glasgow. You're probably familiar with them, MUPE. But seeing the walls there, like it seems pretty much free game. I think I've seen a few of your pieces as well, like on those walls that they're quite good.
Tend to go to a lot of those places because you can kind of bring a speaker. We've even had like a disposable barbecue at some of these. My favourite of all times, there's a wall in Lynn Park,
right,
which is in the south side, and it's like in the middle of the woods basically. It's quite inaccessible. You need to go down a big daft hill to get to it and all that, but it's just a cracking spot because you can just go and relax. As I say, get music on, have a laugh with your pals, have a few beers or whatever. Places like that are for me anyway, I much prefer painting places like that. Where
it's
you can
quite-
just chill.
It's quite sort of safe, and I think I maybe got 1 or 2 pals that have sort of went down to that sort of wall as well and sort of painted. But yeah, no, I think even just like it just does brighten it up, and especially I think there's one spot even like sort of Kingston DIY, which is like kind of under a few bridges. Like it just like honestly, just like lick a paint on it just makes it so much better, just so much nicer. And you see it like as I say, you see it on like you see it like in the West End and stuff. Like it's like walls like that just get painted over and stuff. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, man.
So going into like license painting, so doing it for companies, tell us about that then.
So I've really just kind of got into this side of it. Thankfully, I've started getting a few jobs here and there to do like shop shutters and stuff like that, and I'm really enjoying seeing how it kind of transitions into that side of things.
So how did that come about? How did you get your first? Did they see your work or did they see your Instagram?
It initially came about. I think the first job we got was a boy at one of the Yardworks events.
Right,
and he kind of approached me and asked me to do a commission for him. And just from there, we'd then done it was like a community centre in Easter House. We painted like a Christmas theme around that with a few boys I was kind of painting with at the time. And then from that, it's just kind of been constantly uploading my work and kind of getting a growing following, and then people message you and maybe request something, or they like what you've done and they want something similar type thing. I've even had a few people ask me for canvases. So it's been quite interesting transferring it, because I've never really sat and painted with brushes or anything like that, or pens before.
Right.
So
what do you normally use? Spray?
Just cans of spray paint, yeah. I find that a lot more enjoyable, because it's a whole body experience type. That sounds ridiculous, but it's like
LSD.
I wish. You really need to get your whole body involved, and it's all about can control and how much pressure you're putting on your finger and all this. So it's like you're not just sitting at a desk moving your finger and making tiny adjustments. You really need to get your whole body involved.
So the can control, when you say how much pressure you put on, is it like a standard pressure you put on? Or
you get all different caps as well that do different things. So you get calligraphy caps that you can obviously do calligraphy text with, just shoot a flat kind of beam out. You get fat caps and skinny caps and all that sort of stuff. So they help regulate the pressure, but a lot of it is just controlling the valve of the can and putting it's an absolute nightmare to do, I'm not going to lie, but it's fun learning, I guess.
I think even for pressure in that, like you'll probably need to do that for shades, shading it for that colour. Sorry, on you.
And see, like, so then going back to the canvases, then you were asked by someone to do like a kind of street art on a canvas. So
initially it was a boy who I'd kind of spoken to in the gym about it. And he'd seen one of my pieces in person, and it was one of his favourite films, American Psycho. I'd done a Patrick Bateman, and he loved it, and he was like, I'd love if you could do something like that on canvas. So I just kind of thought to myself, do you know what, I'll give it a bash. The pens I bought weren't the best, so they looked quite watery, but it's just a process, I guess. So I kind of done that canvas for him and just gave him it. So hopefully kind of things start kicking off with that. It'd be good to get more requests in, because once I start getting better equipment, I can actually maybe make some money off it at some point.
Go for it, definitely, man. So obviously talking there about places you wouldn't sort of paint over, people painting over your pieces, does it sometimes get quite heated in the scene?
It can do, yeah. Me personally, I don't take much issue with people painting over me. It comes with the territory, really. It's nice to see. I personally like seeing rotational walls. So I like seeing new stuff every time I go, or even just seeing people uploading stuff constantly on Instagram, because I like seeing the evolution of work type thing without sounding too cringy or anything. But for me, it's not about egos or anything like that, and I'm not trying to say I'm the best in the scene and I need to stay here on this wall. And if anybody goes over me, that's beef. Not into that. A lot of folk do get their backs up. But then you kind of get that with every scene, I guess. There'll be people with chips on their shoulder, who it is a kind of ego thing for them.
It's like, I want my name around all the walls in the south side, and if you paint over me, like we've got a problem here. In that
like levels of respect as well that we have for each other. But like chill spots, I'll say I like to see a bit of rotation.
Yeah,
Keeps
definitely.
it interesting.
Definitely, man, definitely. So you've obviously had a few jobs and stuff. How much does a piece usually kind of cost on average?
Right. It can vary quite a lot. Guys who do like bombing, like when they're just trying to get up rapid, they'll maybe you'll say a can will maybe cost a $5 or something like that. And these guys will maybe like use half a can or whatever it is, 2 cans to do a throw up or something. So that will probably be like what, a tenner. For your more advanced pieces, for your more detailed pieces, it could end up costing you hundreds, just depending on how many colours you need to put into it, what the shading's like. I try and kind of keep it at the kind of 30 quid, 40 quid mark for a piece, just depending on how much
So
cash
that's how
I've
much
got, really,
it costs you to do it.
to do a piece, yeah.
Right. And then, do you like so how much would a company
Again,
pay
it
for it?
totally depends, and I base it purely on how many colours they need.
Oh,
So
right,
for
right.
me, like trying to keep it at a budget, I use quite limited colours.
Right.
There are times where I'll kind of splash out and you get more colours and maybe spend 80 quid in a piece.
Yeah.
But it totally depends on how big the wall is, how many colours you'll need to buy, because there's a lot of different shades in work.
Because that see that Tiger one on the way into town, that piece right down the Clyde side, that must have cost a bomb. Like
Yeah,
that one with the
I
big
think-
tiger and stuff.
That's long gone now, isn't it?
Is it?
Um,
Probably is. Man.
that was on the big black wall on the front side, yeah.
It was, yeah.
That's long gone. I think that was mainly done with like emulsion paint. Like the
Oh,
guys
was
kind
it?
of rolled it. There was
Probably.
obviously like a few cans involved. I don't actually know who done that.
There
That's
used to
pretty
be
bad.
a lot at see Tradeston, the underpass there when you're on the motorway. There used to be quite a lot down there, but I think they painted over them. Like the council,
Yeah,
kind of painted over all
there's
that.
a few. I've had a few painted over by the council as well, and it is just if they view it like I've had portraits painted over, so it's you would call it street art, I guess, and it was Slow Tie, so it's a rapper who's got an album cover where he's got a stamp on his tongue, but it looks like acid.
Oh, right.
So I'd painted that, and the council have obviously viewed that as drugs. Paint over it. Fair enough. It's not my wall anyway, but it totally depends on what you do, because a lot of the stuff the council are happy with, but if it's viewed as graffiti, it's away.
Nah, definitely, man. So do you think you could do it as a full-time job?
Hopefully. There are guys in Glasgow that do it as a full-time job. I'd love to get to that stage. That is the ultimate goal. Obviously, I'm going to need to put a lot of work in to get to that. I still view myself as a beginner. Still kind of learning the ropes. But yeah, hopefully that's
And
the
what
dream
kind
in
of
it.
what kind of work do they do then?
So they'll do big murals for people. So it's like the whole sides of buildings.
Right.
They do a lot of like company logos and stuff like
Oh, right,
that.
right.
Paint houses. Like a lot of guys do like kids' bedrooms and stuff like
Oh,
that.
right,
And
right.
you can even make a living off doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Selling merchandise. There's guys that sell prints, clothing. There's loads of different avenues you can kind of take.
Definitely, because I think there's someone in like my mum's side of the family that does like sort of canvases, probably similar sort of in the terms of artwork, but obviously not sort of street art, but does canvases for people, and I think he's like got a job doing the roof of like a pub in like town, so like there's avenues to go and like that. It's just like I think it's just mad. Like obviously he sells, I think he sold like a mural of Andy Robertson in a canvas to obviously him and stuff like that, and he sold like a few pieces of artwork to big names, but like you can just get, I think he's just kind of done it full time, and he's just went, do you know what, sack it, we'll go for it. So have you collabed with sort of any big names like in the Glasgow graffiti scene?
Well, you say big names, it's big names that people in the scene would know. The only kind of big guys that maybe folk who weren't so much into the scene would know, like Smug, these guys who are doing the big murals. I've painted with them in yard work, so it's like in an event, but it's not been a collaboration type thing. So they've done a piece and I've done a piece somewhere else, but it's been in the same event. I don't know if you'd call that collaboration, but that's probably the closest I've got to it. Usually it's just you'll meet up with your pals or folk that you want to maybe meet and you've seen their stuff and you like their stuff. But yeah, there's been folk like that. So I'd say, yeah, basically is the short answer to your question.
So see, the actual history of it did it start in America? Is it an American thing?
I think so. Well, if you really want to get into it, I'd say it started in the cave paintings. People have
Alright.
been doing.
yeah, true.
You could view
Yeah.
that as graffiti if you want.
Yeah.
It's art. People have been
Yeah.
drawn since we were cavemen. So
Yeah.
I'd personally say it started there. Somebody's just got a rock or whatever it was and drew on a wall, and it's just developed. I've seen pictures of Glasgow in the 70s, 80s that has got like people have maybe went up to a wall with a paintbrush, stuff like that. So it's kind of followed a trend. Everything starts off at really basic grassroots, and then it grows and grows and grows.
Yeah, because I mean, like you see New York in like the 90s and the 80s and stuff, and
I'd say
it's
for like
properly
actual
like
spray paint,
yeah.
it's probably kind of kicked off in New York.
Yeah,
Right.
and then it's probably sort of maybe been London, sort of took a branch off after
Yeah.
that. Maybe you could probably say, and then that's probably where it kicked off in the UK. I'd probably say, but I know that's cool. So we kind of go on to do basically just the last bit of the show, which is basically a round of 10 quick fire questions. Are you going to start us off with the first 5, Adam,
let's go.
today, man?
So
We'll go
what's
for it.
the favourite piece that you've done?
Favourite piece I've done. I've not actually posted this anywhere, but I've done a big mural of my dad. I've sadly lost him, but for his birthday last year, I done a big mural of him in my spare room in my house. So that's obviously very personal to me.
Yeah.
That's going to be my favourite one. It was tough to do, but I'm really glad I done it.
And who would be your most favourite person to collab with?
Right now, I'd say just my pals. We've been putting up this ATS. You would call it a crew, but it's basically just a group of pals. So that's like there's a writer called Tef, Con, Keds, and Foz and Deco and Pledge. So that like it's just basically, as I say, it's a group of mates.
Sound like cleaning products.
It's mad. Like some of the names are crazy, man. But it's just a laugh. You try and like there's a lot of funny names. And that's what it's all about. It's just getting a laugh,
so
innit?
your name's MUPE?
MUPE. It's just random letters. I wanted to initially write Muppet.
Alright.
Just like there's a lot of guys that will put Scottish slang words up, and I quite like that. So it was originally meant to be Muppet, but I'm crap at T's, so I patched the T and it's just MUPE now. So it doesn't make sense, but aye.
But I think even for having tags though, you could show that's probably what this like the scene is probably could be really funny, because like you could say, for instance, like make like a sign, which is like a sign for a business, and then just put your tag if your tag's similar to the words of that logo or something like that. It's quite creative marketing and stuff almost.
It's the only time you get to come up with your own nickname, and mine's crap.
That's what would your last meal be if you were, say, going to
meal?
Yeah, if you were going to the electric chair or something.
That's a tough one. Do you know, it would either need to be he's actually had the boy on. It would either be a Bucks bar, right? Or Spag Ball. Very different, but I cannot live without Spag Ball, man.
So what from Bucks bar? What actual burger?
Just the OG, the classic, man.
Aye.
Just I'm very plain with my eating.
What's the one thing you could never live without?
See, I don't really know, to be honest.
Not human, just like a
not human.
No,
right,
not
so
human.
An object.
Yeah.
I'd probably say my car, and that's only because recently I've had to put it into the garage a lot, and I cannot stand cutting about public transport and all that. It probably sounds pretentious, but it's see, once you get a car, you realise, man, it's just the convenience is taken away from you, and you feel like you're lost.
Yeah. But, I think I'd probably not answer this one, but what's your favourite thing to do to relax?
Yeah, paint. Aye, paint.
Fair enough. Just on to the second 5. If you had any superpower, what would it be?
Flight. Definitely flight.
Where would you
Could
fly?
hit some mad spots.
Alright.
Man.
Those skyscrapers, man.
It'd be cool to just go up and fly about. I've always kind of thought that.
Spray paint the birds. That's it, man. Or an aeroplane. Mid-flight. Bomb an aeroplane. What's the best piece of advice you ever got?
Just to try and enjoy yourself and make the most of it, because we're not here forever. It's a sad lesson we all learn slowly, but just to not take things too seriously and try and have a laugh.
Definitely, man. Best spot to paint?
Best spot? I'd say that Lynn Park, but Yardworks, obviously, I'm not sure if it counts. It was an event, so the atmosphere there was incredible, but just kind of off the cusp spots, I'd say Lynn Park is probably the best.
Nice one. Probably local to yourself if you're south side.
Yeah.
Kind of stomping ground. Best place you've ever visited?
Is this like a country or
just
anywhere in the world?
City, anywhere, country, town.
I went to Barcelona with my dad years ago. I love that city. It's really cool there. Just the whole atmosphere's it's dead laid back. I'd love to go back and paint there if I ever get the opportunity to. It'd be amazing. But I'd say that's probably one of my favourite cities I've visited. That and Amsterdam.
Aye, Dam's quite cool, man. So Dam's one of those places, right? You walk down the street and then I'll like take like a left turn and you're like at the bottom of the street you've already come on.
Yeah.
Like it's just round in circles.
Oh,
the
right.
place
That's
that I
mad.
see the centre of Amsterdam because there's so many canals. Honestly, like I remember like being there. I was like,
sure you didn't take a bad
I'm just going into some dodgy cafes.
Just a bad gummy. Mate.
because no, we were like, oh, we'll go for a walk. And like 10 minutes later, it was like we're back to where we started. But nah,
Devil's an expired gummy.
what was in that brownie again? No, I'm kidding. What would you, if you could, would you rather go back in time or travel into the future?
Back in time.
Mm.
100%.
Nice
Back
one,
time.
man. Devils.
I don't want to know what's going to happen. Technology's already terrifying. I don't want to know what it's going to be like. It's going to be mad.
Metaverse. Doing Menchies in the metaverse.
Folks are already doing that.
Aye.
I see. Like, there's boys I know on Instagram that they've put videos up in there, sitting tagging away in them.
It's really starting to take off that metaverse. Like, so there's a guy that in the Collective Connect group. His name's Harris, he works for a company that sells marketing in the metaverse. So when you get him on this show at one point, they're already doing it, mate. They're selling marketing and so he's getting in really early.
So what is a metaverse? Because like I think obviously Facebook's now owned by Meta. I think Instagram's now owned by Meta. It's all the big apps.
I think the metaverse.
What is it?
I think what it is just any sort of software or any like kind of game where you can go and it's like a virtual reality where it's as if you're it's like living like The Sims might have been classed as kind of like the metaverse, but this is more like I think the VR bit makes it like as if you're actually there.
Mad.
So even on
I
that
still
side
don't
of it,
really
you
feel
get
no
the
feeling.
NFTs. Like that's nuts as well.
People have lost millions.
Mate, people invest so much in that, and then they'll go like, "Oh, it's like so high returns," and I'm like, "What is it? It's just a picture."
I don't really understand all that sort of stuff, to be honest. I tried to get into stocks a while ago, lost like 20 quid, shat myself, and just abandoned ship. So I think I'll just stay clear of the whole.
Yeah. So from what I've seen, like, so the NFTs is there are people out there that do. I don't know if you know Gary V. If you've seen.
Aye.
So he's got NFTs. Blueberries. Have you?
I've missed a beat here.
He's got. You on TikTok? You making content? No. So he.
Fuck your parents, bro.
That's exactly what he says. But so he's got NFTs. What he uses as like, say if you're like a musician and you're wanting to do like backstage passes or something, or you want to like give something to your fans, right? They can actually buy you release these NFTs, they can buy them, and then that is like a token, a ticket, if you like,
right,
for them to come in and have like a membership where they can come and see you or whatever. It's like a pass kind of thing. So there's that. Those are like the good ones, and the bad ones are obviously the ones that are just like, scams. Like people, there's a lot of crime. Cryptocurrency, but
it's one of those things like someone uploads like a JPEG and goes like, "Oh mate, that's 200 quid,
the
man."
The ape thing is mental, isn't it?
It's
Like
mental. It's crazy. For me, I always used to view Bitcoin as like folk who were using the black market on the deep web and stuff like that. So it's kind of jumped into the mainstream.
So there's been like there's people that are say like I've heard of massive international drug deals going down over like in them using cryptocurrency. Like it was an NFT. So an NFT sold for something like $200 million, right? And there was no reason it was worth that, but it was just obviously you can't see because it's encrypted. So people are thinking, it's probably a drug deal that's been went down like 200 million worth just to like wash it basically.
Well, it gets to a point, especially with like art as well, where it gets to that level of money and you think there must be some sort of laundering or there's something weird going on. See, when somebody's paying 200 million for a canvas with one stripe down it, like what's going on here? And nobody's heard of the guy before.
Like an off-white logo or something like that.
Just wild.
And it is one of those, especially in art, it's one of those things where you like its values can just be determined by someone. Someone can just say, yeah, that's how much it's worth. You know what I mean? So it's like that there is like scope for people to.
I could honestly see that happening in art auctions so much.
Yeah.
Like, it's mental.
Yeah.
Maybe a different story if you were buying the Mona Lisa. But it's one of those things. Anyway, MUPE, thanks for coming on. Everyone, obviously, links to MUPE's Instagram page will be put in the bio. He's got some sick work. If you want to check him out for your shop shutters, just have a gander, like his stuff, follow his stuff, mate. Check out MUPE.